Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. This time we are looking at the team news, all the latest developments from the press conferences that have been taking place today, which is Friday, and yesterday, Thursday. As ever, joining me is Fantasy Football Scout's editor, Neale, who's been poring over all of the transcripts from the press conferences. Neale, how are you?
All right, yeah, not long finished actually, because we had 12 at 1:30. I think that's the record for most number of press conferences at the same time. So yeah, there's some I actually haven't seen all the way through yet, which we'll discuss later. But we've got the headline news, I think, from all of them.
Okay, excellent stuff there. Just before we move on, just welcome those joining us in the live chat. Mark, Kieran, Neha, Sakan, Geo Boys, Film on Johannes, Jack, BB Defender, Sing the Tail, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us early, and let's hope we give you the team news that you want for your FPL teams ahead of game week 36. Okay, let's have a look. Let's start off with a big news, really, and that's Newcastle, because everyone wants to know what's happening in Newcastle, because Newcastle and Brighton play twice. So a lot of transfer activity today and possibly tomorrow morning will take place for Newcastle. As I was discussing on the captaincy video earlier in the week, Neale, I was discussing with Mark, who is also a Newcastle fan, how Sean Longstaff has become pivotal. The fitness of Sean Longstaff has become pivotal to our season as it draws to a close. And I never thought that would happen. But here we are in a world where Sean Longstaff is very, very important to us. What is the latest with Sean Longstaff?
Yeah, I'll give you an update on him first, and I'll explain why that is important. So he's probably going to miss this one. Well, definitely going to miss this one with a foot problem. It's more problematic than the first thought. No structural damage done, which is good at least, but there is some ligament damage. So he's getting another scan today. Could still feature in this season, possibly as soon as next week, but that's the best case scenario. Might be out for the duration. So he's now, I think he's 25% flagged. And Richie, Kraft, and Lascelles are still out. So yeah, why Longstaff is important is because, well, it partly influences whether we might see ISAK on the left and Wilson up top, so the two of them playing together. However, it's not mutually exclusive events.
Okay.
With Longstaff out, that means our default midfield is Joe Linton, Guimaraes, and Willock.
Yeah.
There's nobody else.
Okay.
But Joe Linton has been playing on that left wing quite a bit this season for Newcastle, and that's obviously the path we've got for ISAK and Wilson being in the same team. So ISAK on the left, Wilson up top. We saw it last weekend against Arsenal. However, what I will say is that we've got other options who can play on the left as well. St. Maximin is just back to fitness. He got 15 minutes last weekend. That's all he could do off the bench, but he's now a week fitter. Anthony Gordon can play there as well. So as FPL Rashi said on the Fantasy Football Scout site this morning, the only certainty of this is that Joe Linton plays in central midfield. There's no certainty that ISAK starts on the left, or Wilson is in the same team. My thought on this, as you might be about to ask me, is that the best chance you've got of both of them starting in the next 3 games is this Leeds match, and I think that's the only one they will at best. I think with the Thursday game against Brighton preceding a Monday match against Leicester, I think Howe will split their minutes across those 2 games.
Okay.
So that's the second game week 36 fixture and the first game week 37 fixture. I think he'll give one start to each of them. But this is Saturday lunchtime, and the next game's not till Thursday night. So I don't think fatigue's an issue just yet. And I think the best chance you've got, particularly with St. Maximum only just being back fit, I think the best chance of them both starting is that Leeds game, which is the one we want them both to start.
Well, so I mean, I'm a Brighton fan, and I actually prefer whichever one I pick, which I've already picked, but it's ISAK, to play that Brighton game, because Brighton are very open and it's at home. So that's the one, and I don't know about Leeds. I don't know how tricky this is going to be. On paper, Newcastle should win this, but yes. So it just shows that they're still up in the air. We might get some TV leaks tomorrow. So basically, it looks like, hopefully, as you were saying, both will start this week. But midweek, it's like, because previously ISAK has missed out midweek following a weekend match.
Yeah,
but
the difference this time, the difference this time is that it's a Saturday lunchtime, Thursday night turnaround, so that it's not really, it's almost a full week
Yeah.
recovery. But I do think they'll get one start each in the Brighton and Leicester games.
Okay. So in previous weeks, Wilson has missed out the weekend. ISAK misses out during the week. But if they're both playing on Saturday, that does throw a spanner in the works. So it's very difficult to predict. Either way, I think if there's goals, they're both going to be on it, no matter how many minutes they get. And we've seen they both can make an impact as a sub. But anyway, hopefully that sort of irons out a few people's issues there, and it's really good to get your perspective there. Not just because of your role at Fantasy Football, but also Football Scout, but also as a Newcastle fan as well. Because I know I quizzed Mark about that as well earlier in the week. Leeds are hosting Newcastle. How are Leeds set up for this?
Yeah, it's as you were on the Leeds team news. So 4 still out, nobody a fresh concern, and the 4 absentees are Adams, Cooper, Dallas, and Sinistera.
Okay, rightio. Well, let's sketch over them because I mean we're looking to target Leeds, perhaps not their players, but who they're replacing, who they're facing. Aston Villa face Spurs. So let's go with the home side first. What shape are Villa in for this clash? Which really, this is the battle for Europe for them, isn't it? This is for a Europa League or Europa Conference place.
Yeah, must win really for them because I think if Spurs win, that's the dream over. So they're in rude health as well. Villa, they've only got a backup goalkeeper. That's Jed Steer, who's a long-term absentee. Everyone else is fit. We saw last weekend Kamara, Coutinho, and Bailey on the bench, and Matty Cash is already back in training as well, and he'll be involved this weekend. So yeah, nobody a concern.
And as for Spurs as well, I mean they've always got these sort of perennial problems with wing backs. They've got quite a few wing backs, but quite a few injured wing backs as well. But and we know that Lloris is out for the rest of the season. So what's the rest of the situation like for Spurs injury wise?
Yeah, so again, they got some players back last week. Emerson Royale started, and Basuma was on the bench. So that's 2 off the injury list. Sessegnon, Lloris, and Bentancur, they're out for the season now, so we won't see those again. Clement Longley, we thought was seriously injured. He seemed to damage his shoulder last weekend against who were they playing? Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
but he should be fine. He's not done any serious damage, and Mason hopes he's going to be fine for the weekend.
Okay, let's move on. Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. Now, I mean, Chelsea, God, if you ever a team that wants this season to end, they just want it to end and to carry on. I mean, the injuries are mounting up. The fans want it to anyway. Chelsea against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest desperately, they've got to win this to keep up to ensure they're playing Premier League next year. Chelsea, I don't know if they want to win or lose. They just want it to end. But how are Chelsea set up for this?
Yeah, as you said, they're losing bodies by the game. Really, I think it should. By the way, I write a team news roundup on the site, and I do it in sort of hierarchical order. You know, the most important teams at the top. Chelsea now are sort of midway down around your Leicesters and your West Hams. Just goes to show. So yeah, they've lost Ben Chilwell potentially for the season, but he's got a chance of recovering for the final game, I think. He's joined Reece James and Mason Mount and Cucurella on the sidelines. All 4 of those, Lampard said, could feature in the last game or 2, but definitely not this weekend. Okay. Armando Broja's out for the season as well. Fofana's back in training, at least he should be fine. And Koulibaly's had some managed training, so he could be back involved for Game Week 37.
Okay. Meanwhile, I mean, Nottingham Forest, I mean, are well known. Are they injured? Are they not? Is he telling the truth? Is he lying? Who knows? But what is, if we can take whatever he says seriously, what is the latest from the Nottingham Forest manager?
Well, he's ruled Emmanuel Dennis out, so expect him to start on the weekend. Yeah, so Dennis joins if that's true. He joins Williams, McKenna, Wood, Henderson, Bianconi, and Richards out. Aurier is touch and go, so he limped out of that win over Southampton. Cooper said they're going to give him the best chance possible to feature because, of course, Williams is out and he would have stepped in. Renan Lodi as well came off with a knock, I think, but he wasn't mentioned, so. Again, who knows on that one. Gustavo Scarpa's been back in training. He's been out for about a month for a calf problem. So it's match fitness with him now. So, yeah, to summarise, who the hell knows what's going on at Forest?
Radio, okay. But realistically, they've got a chance. They're actually,
Yeah.
I would say they're the favourite to win this one. Crystal Palace against Bournemouth. This is the book yourself trip to the Garden Centre. Although there are a few Solanke owners out there who possibly got him on the bench, and as we shall find out in a bit later, the bench players may be needed. But let's start with this one. Crystal Palace, great fixtures, still quite good form. We're still going to ignore them. But what shape are they in for this?
Yeah, MacArthur's back. He's been past fit. Milivojevic has joined Tompkins and Ferguson on the sidelines, so that's just one backup midfielder in, one backup midfielder out. Jeffrey Schlupp, who has been starting, he's a doubt as well. Okay. And Ahamada wasn't involved last weekend either. He had a late fitness test but didn't feature. So this will either be an absolutely stinking 0-0, everyone can't be bothered, end of season in the sunshine, or a 5-4, which you tend to get at this time of year.
Okay. Bournemouth are looking. Kiefer Moore could be available. There was a concussion going on there.
He was concussed, but he's fine now. It's a 6-day protocol, so that's long been served. He's the only one back, I think. Tavernier, Traore is still out. Yeah, okay. And Fredericks and Stanislas out for the season.
Righty-o. And just a reminder to everyone in the live chat, there's been a few reminders in the live chat there. Do press that like button. And if you're watching back as well, do press that like button. And do subscribe to the Fantasy Football Scout channel if you're not already. Let's move on to Manchester United versus Wolves. This is where our benches may be needed. So we're going to need a bit of an insight into what's happening at Manchester United. A bit of a surprise. Who is the Manchester United star who may not start?
Well, it's Marcus Rashford. And whereas some injury news we were expecting, like Solly Marches, which we'll come on to later, this one came completely out of the blue. He's not only a doubt, he's a big question mark for the visit of Wolves. So that's the words of Erik ten Hag. That's what he said. He's more than doubtful, according to the United boss. So 25% flag's gone on him. They have got Varane back in the squad. He's now fit. I think he's been out for about a month, so he's available. So yeah, Rashford potentially joining Martinez, McTominay, Heaton and Van der Beek on the sidelines.
With the news of Varane being back, would that mean that Luke Shaw could be returning to left back?
He could because Lindelof, I think, has played on that left-hand side. He's typically a right-sided centre-half, but Ten Hag was trying to reinvent Maguire as a right-sided stopper a while back, and I think Lindelof was playing on the left, so it could happen. But I suspect longer term he'll prefer Varane alongside Shaw.
Okay.
With the usual suspects at fullback, either Darlow, Wan-Bissaka or Malacia.
That does limit their attack slightly. That's why I asked that, for not only for Shaw owners, but also Fernandes owners like me as well, because Shaw's crossing and movement up the pitch was all integral to their attack, which is one of the many reasons why they're not firing at the moment. Would that be fair to say?
I'm not sure, because Shaw sort of brings quite a lot at centre half as well, and certainly from his perspective, FPL wise, he's a bit of a bat machine at centre back. I had a look at his underlying bonus point accumulation, and he accumulates a lot when he's playing at centre half. So that kind of offsets his attacking returns, loss of attacking returns to some extent. Okay. Yeah, of course you prefer him at left back, of course you would, but I think it's not necessarily all bad if he's starting at centre half.
Right, yeah. And as for Wolves, I've got a feeling this is going to be quite short, the roundup of Wolves' injury situation.
Yeah, nobody injured apart from the long-term ones who are Chiquinho and Kalajic.
Okay, we'll sketch over them then. Southampton against Fulham, another Garden Centre match for people to enjoy as they're looking over the begonias and stuff like that. Southampton, what state are they in as they prepare for relegation?
Yeah, this will be the game that seals it, I'm sure. They have lost Bella Kotchap to a hamstring injury, so he joins Larios, Salisu, Livramento and Perrault out. Che Adams is also a doubt as well. He's a fresh concern. I'm not sure what the problem is, but he's been flagged as a doubt. So they're about to drop.
Okay, rightio. Meanwhile, Fulham, they can welcome someone. They've got a few injuries of their own. Long-term, Pereira, for example, we spoke about last week's out for the rest of the season. But they can welcome back a certain player. Who's that?
Yeah, one of the strikers we all started the season with in our fantasy teams, and that's Mitrovic. He's been out for 8 games through suspension, of course, after that incident at Old Trafford. But he's back, and not necessarily straight back in the team because Carlos Vinicius, much maligned, I think, for much of the season, but has turned it on in the last few games. He's looked actually pretty good. And Silva said as much yesterday. He says he's got a welcome headache now up top as to who starts. So no guarantees Mitrovic comes back in for this one.
But he's
injury-wise, he is fit. Yeah, he's fine. I mean, obviously, it's been quite a while before he's played. So you could say match fitness could be a problem, but there was no indication of that from Silva. He has trained all this time. Injury-wise, it's Daniel James, Pereira, and Ream who are still out.
Okay, righty-o. Let's move on to Brentford against West Ham. So I've got West Ham tweet on the screen, but no Brentford yet. And I consulted a wide variety of Fantasy Football Scout people about this, and they couldn't find anything from Brentford. But have you got anything for me? So West Ham visit Brentford. What about the home side? Have we got anything to say about them?
No, because partly the tweets from the Brentford press conference or from the official site didn't mention any team news, and the guy who's normally there, Jay Harris from the Athletic, who normally tweets stuff out, it didn't report on it today. So we're not aware of anything on the team news front. It will land later on, I'm sure, on YouTube, and I'll watch it then. Okay. But as far as we know, the players who are still out are Janssen, Lewis Potter, and Norgard. And possibly Strakosha as well.
Okay, so any of the players we might own, for example, Tony, as far as we know, they're all fine.
As far as we know.
They face West Ham in the middle of Europe. We were here 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were saying, West Ham, European game, facing Bournemouth. That looks, it's going to be tricky for them. And then they hammered them. So what shape of West Ham for this? The supposedly tired West Ham for this.
Yeah, I suppose the difference then was that they were still fighting for the survival in the Premier League, whereas now they're pretty much home and dry, I think, all but assured. So you might see a bit of rotation this weekend from Moyes. Injury-wise and illness-wise, because they've got someone who was sick, and that's Ogbonna. Moyes is not sure that he's going to recover for this one. Antonio should be fine. He picked up a knock against Alkmaar last night. Should be all right. Scamaga and Kufal are the red flag ones, but even Kufal's back doing some light jogging, so he should be probably around from game week 37, you'd think.
Very nice. Everton, victors against Brighton last week. They've got a slightly trickier opponent in Man City. How are Everton shaped up before they entertain the perhaps champions in waiting?
Well, Dyche wasn't really asked if they had any new concerns, so that there is always the possibility of that happening. But he did say that Coleman's had surgery, and he's going to be out now for the rest of the season. It's on his knee. Vinagre is out as well with an Achilles. Townsend, we saw him play for the under-23s on Monday, under-21s, whatever it is these days. That's his first competitive action in over a year. He's been out with a knee injury, and he got 45 minutes for the under-23s. Obviously, that's still some distance before he's match fit, but good to see him back. The other one is Godfrey. Didn't get any news on him. He's been out with a groin problem. Maybe there's be some later on in the embargoed section, but nothing on him.
Okay. Meanwhile, for Man City, there wasn't too much injury-wise with them recently, but I know Nathan Ake has been a doubt and has been in and out of the side for the last few weeks. But yeah, what's the situation with him?
Pep says he's much better,
which
doesn't really mean much, but they said they've got training for later on today, and that'll tell whether he's available or not. So keep your eyes peeled on any training ground photos, because that'll be the best bet, I think, whether he's going to be fit or not. There was quotes. He's the only injury doubt, by the way, that we know of. There was plenty of quotes actually on the turnaround between this game and the Champions League semis, which bookend either side of this fixture. Pep says his thoughts on Everton, no more than that, but he maybe left a little bit of wriggle room for rotation, because he says there's not much time because we play Sunday. Thank you so much. And he had a go at Eurovision.
He had a go at it?
Yeah, well, something like that. He was taking up the Saturday night slot on TV.
Right.
I think that was the gist.
I don't know.
He was on one of his.
I saw the Spain entry. It was pretty rubbish, but not that bad.
Maybe he got looked over for the Catalonian entry.
Well, just as people haven't seen it already, the Croatian entry is something to behold. Go and watch that on Saturday night. That's worth the license fee alone. Okay, So yeah, I've got Jack Grealish on my bench. Other people will have a City player perhaps bench this week, like Mahrez, for example, with Rashford out, possibly out rather. That's a good first sub to have, because it's sounding pretty bad for Rashford to start this to actually play.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in a similar position where I had started Rashford and I had Grealish as my first sub, same as you. Sounds like Joe. I would. There's still a bit that about Grealish as well, because they do have a more generous turnaround than they did last weekend. But Grealish was complaining about his fatigue, and after that Madrid game on Tuesday, saying did he have cramp in both his calves? He was saying he says it rarely ever happens, so just be wary that you might need a second sub if Grealish doesn't materialise.
Well, luckily, I've got Luke Shaw ready and waiting.
Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine then.
Well, not if Rashford gets a minute and Grealish gets a minute. I'm stuffed.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Arsenal against Brighton. So we're going to start with the visitors first, not just because I'm a Brighton fan, just because Brighton have 2 fixtures. So people have got their eye on a Brighton player to bring in perhaps. But also the big concern after the Everton game was Solly March pulled up with a hamstring complaint. Zerbi has been coy all week about that. Has he given us any more information about Solly March? I'm presuming he's out, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, as we thought when he pulled up very sharply with that hamstring injury. He's out of this one, and he's probably going to miss Double Gameweek 36 completely. Maybe even the first half of Double Gameweek 37 as well, because now I haven't seen this press conference myself yet, so I'm going off what Andy Neale was saying. He's from The Athletic. And he said that a report that De Zerbi said that he can maybe play the last 2 games. So that's the second half of Game Week 37 and then Game Week 38. So obviously red flag now. So he's out of this one. Webster's out of this one as well, although no time frame on him.
Okay. Cole will come in, presumably.
Colwell comes in, yeah. De Zerbi very, very praiseworthy of Colwell today. He's saying he can't find another left-footed centre-half like him in Europe at the moment. So wants to keep him beyond this loan. Lamptey, Sarmiento out. Lallana, Moda back in training recently, but I think still some way from a return. Veltman's the other one. He's been absent recently because of a minor muscle injury. De Zerbi still sounded unsure. He says he needs to find out whether Veltman can play at right back, otherwise he's going to have to use somebody else.
Okay. So
it could again be Gross or Caicedo. One of those two playing.
Yeah, so a lot of people in the live chat thinking McAllister could be a good alternative to Solly March to bring in. I know that move that I've already made, but we still don't know really whether McAllister will play as a number 10 or further back at this stage.
No, I think at least one of the games you think in 36 he will do that, because Gilmore's now become more of a factor.
Yeah.
So he can play at centre midfield even if Gross is at right back. But yeah, I'll probably bring him in as well. Or Bourne transfer.
Good stuff. The McAllister gang. They face Arsenal. What has Arteta been saying? I understand there's a couple of... I think we already knew about Saliba being probably not going to play again this season.
Yeah.
But Zinchenko has emerged as a injury doubt for this.
Yeah, this emerged last night, minutes after Tom Freeman, my colleague, had completed a piece on how Arsenal are weak at left back with Zinchenko there. So that was good timing.
What did he? Did he injure him?
Yeah, possibly.
With his words.
So yeah, he's. The reports are that he's out with this one and out for the season. That was David Ornstein, who's normally a reliable source from The Athletic. Okay. Arteta, as you'd expect from him, very coy on team news at the best of times. He said it's not definitely the case. He's not definitely out for the season. But I'd trust a journalist rather than I would a head coach a lot of the time in the Premier League. So he's the fresh concern. And yeah, Saliba out still, Tomiyasu out, and El Neni I think's back in training, but I'm not sure if he's ready to feature just yet.
Rightio. And finally, the final match of this, because we're not counting the Newcastle Brighton game as part of this, because we don't know the team news for that, because they both haven't played yet, so it could be completely different. No point us speculating. But Leicester taking on Liverpool. Awful Leicester defence, getting with a much more promising Liverpool attack. This bodes well for goals, because there's defensive problems with Liverpool too. Let's go with the home side first. What's the latest there as they take on Liverpool?
I think it's the same as you were last week. So Iheanacho's still out, but he will be back for Game Week 37, it sounds like. Slightly ahead of schedule.
Okay.
And beyond that, just Vestergaard and Justin who are out.
Right, yeah. And as for Liverpool, Firmino, we're all waiting for his return. The romantics amongst us of the game. Will Firmino return to do a swan song? But will he be back for this one?
He won't. No, he's not even in full team training yet. So he's been on the grass, I think, but not with his teammates. They're expecting that to happen after the Leicester game. So just in time for a final game week 37 appearance at Anfield. That's the last home game of the season. So that's against Aston Villa. So that's when you might see Firmino getting some sentimental minutes. He is out. So is Keita. Both of those are near a return, but not quite ready. And then you've got the longer term ones like Thiago, Ramsey, and Bajcetic.
Okay, and it's time to round up those news. So obviously there was a lot of press conferences a bit late on, so I sort of rushed through this. So hopefully they're all right. After last week's Dr. De Bruyne slipped into the team news roundup. Let's have a look. So fit to play. I'll put Mitrovic in because he's been out for so long, but it looks like he is actually fit to play. The break is fine. He's got the match fitness to start. Fofana should be fit. Antonio should be fit as well after there was slight concern, and Kiefer Moore as well for Bournemouth. Questionable. You got Aurier, Nathan Ake. We don't know whether he's fit to start or not yet. Shay Adams. I'll get my Southampton striker.
Charlie Adams definitely unfit. He's not going to be featuring this.
Charlie Adams is way off the pace, but Shay Adams is also off the pace. And Koulibaly as well, very questionable. Longley could be playing, could not. But
he sounds like he should be all right. Yeah,
should be okay, but he's in between fit to play and questionable. Townsend is probably between questionable and major doubt, but he has come back for the under-23s, so he could indeed get some minutes or a start. Coming back from his knee injury.
I would say a major doubt to out. I think with Townsend.
Okay. So he's more over that side then. So definitely questionable, definitely a doubt, and probably out. And Schlupp with his injury is questionable for Palace, so we don't know that. Major doubt is Rashford. He's 25% flagged with a surprise leg injury. There, so that's probably the headline news there, and surprisingly, Sean Longstaff's definitely being out is headline news because that alters where certain other Newcastle players, particularly ISAK and Joe Ellington, will play. Dennis is allegedly out for Nottingham Forest. Firmino, it's going to become too soon for his swan song here. Same with Keita's injuries keeping him out as well. March is out, so get your transfer buttons ready, March owners. Iheanacho is out, but could be returning soon. Zinchenko is out. Saliba, he's got a back injury, but he's not back. He's out. Chilwell, hamstrings keeping him out. Mount, abdominal injury, I'm put there. That was the last things I read about that particular injury that he's suffering. Kufau has got hamstring problems. And Webster will be out, so Colwell will likely deputise for him, or indeed just replace him. They're both very good defenders there. So I think we've got everything there. There's obviously the long-standing ones, but these are sort of a lot of the new ones that we can add in. Neale, thanks a lot for joining me. Hopefully we've given everyone the team news they desire, and they can go away and make their transfers and plans for Game Week 36. We'll be back next week ahead of Game Week 37. So I'll see you there. Thanks for everyone in the live chat. See you soon. Take care. See you next week.
Bye-bye.